Welcome back to another movie review, guys, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Last American Virgin. Coming out in 1982, the movie follows a pizza delivery boy named Gary, played by Lawrence Manison, his friend called Loudmouth Dave, played by Joe Rubo, and a jock named Rick, played by Steve Anton. They are a group of 3 high schoolers that are on a mission to lose their virginity in any way possible. Gary ends up falling for a transfer student who just came into town named Karen, played by Diane Franklin. He meets her for the first time when he goes into what I would assume is a malt shop, and he goes there and he's getting ice cream, and he meets up with his friends.
Hey, you know the sweet chicks over there? David's just sitting here telling me that they're easy legs.
Listen, Gary, Tom's brother screws that blonde like he owns her.
Rick and David, they're scoping out the place to try to find some girls that they want to have a party with, and most likely try to get laid. So they end up meeting 3 girls at the malt shop named Roxanne, Brenda, and Millie. And they come up with a plan to try to get them to come back to Gary's house with promises of giving them cocaine.
We have uppers, downers.
What about Coke? Yeah.
Yeah, lots coke. Of course.
When you're using drugs, you're only cheating yourself out of the chance to find out who you really can be. So don't blow it. Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, you knew I had to put that scene in there. Anyway, they go back to Gary's house and they search for the cocaine. Obviously, they don't have it. So, instead of giving them cocaine, they decide to get sweet and low and mix it together and trick them into basically snorting it off of an ashtray. But obviously you can tell that the girls never had cocaine before either.
Really good stuff. I love it.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. If you do them, you're bad. Because drugs are bad. Okay? It's a bad thing to do drugs, so don't be bad.
So after the snorting of the supposed cocaine, the guys take the girls to separate rooms to have their way with them. But they don't get very far because when Rick and David are about to seal the deal, Gary's parents come home and they end up walking in on Gary about to do it with Millie. Damn it, Gary! Didn't I tell you not to bring fat chicks home again? They're gross, and their sweat smells like roast beef.
You're despicable.
Now, coming back to the main title of the film, The Last American Virgin, obviously it's called that because, Gary's the last American virgin on it. No shit. But the film covers the tragedy of being what you would now call a simp. And unfortunately, nowadays, a lot of men are taught to be like that. Women condition them at basically a very young age to be simps to women, to cater to them, so they can basically mold men and use them however they want to use them, which is basically what they complain about what men do to women. Now, comparing Gary to Rick here, Rick is obviously an alpha male, whereas Gary is more of a beta, and he believes that if he holds women to a very high standard on a pedestal, then somehow, at some point, he'll get what he wants from them, which he most likely won't, because although women act like they want to be equal to men, and that they want men who are weaker and that they can control, really deep down, they actually want a man who's dominant, and a man who, knows what he wants, and is in control of them, really. That's why Karen ends up going with Rick instead of Gary, because Rick is a alpha male and Gary is a beta. And he really doesn't understand this, and he doesn't figure this out until the very end of the film, unfortunately. And a lot of times, this is what happens to a lot of men, where they allow women to control them, and they keep falling into the relationships like this. And like you can see with like Karen's best friend Rose, she is attracted to Gary, like how Gary's attracted to Karen, but he can't see that because he's too obsessed with Karen, and he somehow believes that if he is obsessed with her and that he will somehow get a relationship with her if he just panders to her and you know, puts her on this like huge pedestal, even though she's not like that great. And you can tell that she's using him, and that even when she ends up breaking up with Rick, she just goes to him for like emotional support, and he really never gets what he wants from her because she doesn't see that in him, and he never sees that until the end of the film.
Just once, can we figure out what we keep doing wrong? What are we doing wrong?
So Rick ends up giving Karen the cold shoulder when it's revealed to him that she is pregnant. So she goes to Gary because Rick is emotionally unavailable now. So of course she goes to Gary for emotional support. And he ends up taking her to his grandparents' house, and instead of supporting her and helping her out with the pregnancy, he decides to take her to get an abortion. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell? Like, thinking that somehow that's gonna take the problem away, and it looks like she's a little reluctant to do it because you can tell that she's kind of like freaked out going to the hospital to do this. And Gary even goes out of his way to even like go and sell a bunch of stuff to a pawn shop because he doesn't have enough money to pay for her fucking abortion. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is like extreme simp behavior. Like friggin' crazy, man. Like, who the fuck does that? Like, what the hell?
The people are retarded.
What's funny is, even after all that, after everything that Gary does for Karen, at the end of the movie, she goes back to Rick. What the fuck? He literally, like, you know, was like her best friend, I guess. Well, yeah, I get, like, he was trying to be like her, you know, friends to her. And like, they showed like Rick was like being an asshole to her at the library. And then, you know, they basically broke up. And then all of a sudden she goes back to Rick. Like, what the frick? Like, this is what these women do. Like, they complain about how guys are shitty, and they'll complain to like other, you know, guys that they don't want to date about how the guy is shitty, but then they'll get back with the shitty guy probably because they need something. But actually, they'll go to the guy who's the simp to get what they want from them. And then, you know, they'll make it look like they're going to give something to them, but they really aren't. And in actuality, they're actually seeing the other guy that they actually want to be with, but they're leading on the simp because the simp basically pays for stuff for them or is their emotional support dummy or something. But at the end, like, he goes into the kitchen and he ends up seeing Karen with Rick, and it's so stupid because, like, you should have seen that coming because you can tell that she is just using him and she really doesn't care. And this, yeah, like, this film really shows what it's like to be like the, I guess, simp, but like, he's not necessarily that much of a simp as like other guys, but Gary's still kind of like been indoctrinated to be kind of like that simp kind of guy where like he's like kind of a kiss up to like girls a little bit. I guess at the end you can kind of see him like realizing this, and that like this whole time he was wrong, and that he's realizing what girls actually really want. And really, like, a lot of men are like this. Like, they're basically conditioned by like women their whole life to be simps, and then when they realize it doesn't work out, then they're all upset about it, which is kind of stupid. That they should have realized this like a long time ago. But really shows the reality of like the way dating is, and this is like back in the 80s. Back then they knew what it was like, and it's like worse than that now, because like especially with like online dating and all that shit, it's like people take advantage of people and they make it tough to actually have like real relationships anymore nowadays. But yeah, I mean, I like the film, but you know, it kind of pissed me off a little bit because it's showing like the harsh reality of like the way dating is. Really, this movie's very relevant to like today, and it's like one of those like timeless movies that you can probably watch like 100 times and not get tired of it. But yeah, it really shows the reality of like the way the dating culture is, and especially like it's interesting to see like how it was back then. It's like nothing's really changed, and now it's like the way society is. Like everything's like everyone wants to victimize each other, and like people are like victims, and you know women are always like, oh, everyone's out to get me, or like you know, like they can't trust men. It's like men can't trust women either because there's so many catfishers out there, and there's like you know fake women out there who make it look like they actually give a shit about you, but then they screw you over. And then they complain the same thing about men. It's like you can't complain about that when like you're literally doing the same fucking thing. Like, but yeah, like the ending was like you can see that coming. Like you see it coming since the beginning of the movie. Like you know that she's gonna screw Gary over, and then he's gonna be all whiny and pissy about it at the end. It's like he should have saw that coming the whole time. Like, like obviously Karen wasn't like infatuated with him. Like she was infatuated with like Rick, but Rick knew how to lead women on, and unfortunately a lot of men are like that. And then women complain about those men to the guys who actually give a shit about them, but they won't date those guys because they aren't attracted to them. Which, what's interesting too is like, with guys, they will date women who aren't as attractive as other women because either they actually respect them or they don't treat them like shit. Like, usually, like, I mean, if it's like someone who's like cheating, then like, obviously they're gonna like go with someone who's like looks better than the person they're dating. But it's like, they break up with someone, they would rather go with a woman who's not as attractive, but actually like respects them and like gives them peace and all that. Whereas women, they will go up, and they'll be okay if a guy who treats them like shit if they have popularity status or if they have money. And that's the sad truth of the way women are now. But you know, like the ending of it kind of hits hard with a lot of people because like, especially if you're someone who's like been in the same boat as Gary in this movie, you understand this, and it shows like it's really relevant to like today. Like a lot of people would probably like resonate with this movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It was I definitely give this like a 5-star rating, a 9 out of 10. It really shows like the harsh reality of like the way the dating world is. But anyway, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post.
I'm pregnant.
See you, chump.